We were 10 feet from the door when the floor gave way. 1 second I had my rookie on the line. The next he was vanishing into a black hole under the riverfront warehouse. For a heartbeat, all I could think was, I just killed him. My call did this. That's the thing about vacant buildings. They lie. On the paperwork, they're empty. On the radio, they're no life hazard. But fire doesn't care what the computer says, and neither does your gut when somebody swears they saw a light inside. People always think the worst fires are the big ones you see on the news. The ones with helicopters overhead and flames punching holes in the sky. Those are bad, sure. But the fires that stay with you aren't always the biggest. Sometimes it's the nights when you are one wrong step, one bad decision, away from losing somebody who trusted you to bring them home. This was one of those nights. My name's Cap Sam. I spent most of my life at Station 47. In a little river town folks only know because they pass it on the way to somewhere else. I've seen mills burn, trailers go up like matchboxes, and more car fires than I can count. But if you ask me which call wakes me up at 3 in the morning, I don't picture the tallest flames. I see that warehouse on the river. I hear the rookie's voice in my radio, cut off in mid-sentence, and I feel the way the floor rolled under my boots, like the whole building was taking a breath before it tried to swallow one of my own. It started on a late summer night, the kind where the air feels like a hot, wet towel, and the river smells a little sour if the wind comes from the wrong direction. We'd just come back from a dumpster fire behind the grocery store. Some oily rags, a few cardboard boxes, nothing to write home about. The kind of call you forget by the time you're back in the bay. Boone, my engineer, set the air brake with that long sigh every rig makes when it knows it's home. Tyler, my new guy, swung down off the tailboard and rolled his shoulders like his gear weighed more than he did. Marianne, who'd been doing this since before Tyler was born, tossed her helmet on top of her locker and went straight for the coffee pot out of muscle memory. I was halfway through hanging my coat when the tones dropped. 3 sharp blasts from the speaker on the wall. Every head turned. Station 47, Station 42. Respond to a reported structure fire, commercial building, possible vacant warehouse, 108 Riverfront Lane, cross of Mill Street. Caller reports smoke showing. Unknown if anyone inside. Riverfront Lane. We all looked at each other. The old riverside feed and grain warehouse sat down by the water, squeezed between the railroad tracks and the river like somebody had parked it there and forgotten it. The business had shut down decades back. Some city developer bought it once, talked about lofts and a restaurant, then left when he saw the asbestos report. On paper, it was vacant. In real life, it was where teenagers went to drink warm beer, where drifters disappeared in the winter, and where we'd have chased off more than one group of kids with spray paint. Vacant buildings are liar buildings. They always swear they're empty, until you find out they weren't. I grabbed the radio mic. County. Engine 47 responding. Confirm address is Riverside Feed and Grain. Affirmative. Engine 47. PD en route. Additional caller now reporting flames visible from the roof. So this wasn't just a little trash fire in the loading dock. Full turnout? I called. This one's real. Boone was already in the driver's seat. I slid into the officer's chair, Tyler and Marianne in the jump seats behind us, buckles clicking in the dark. The bay door rattled up, and the night retched in, hot and heavy. We pulled out, lights flipping the brick walls red and blue. Boone hit the siren at the end of the apron, that long rising wail that turns heads on Main Street, whether people want to look or not. We headed south, past dark shop fronts and the one bar that never really closes. Folks on the sidewalk turned toward us, faces lit in flashes as we rolled by. I watched the reflection of our lights slide along windows I'd known my whole life. "County, Engine 47 is on the road," I said. "Give me any updates." Engine 47, PD unit on scene reports, heavy smoke, and flames visible, possible exposure to residents on the east side. Caller believes structure is vacant. I could almost hear the shrug in believes. We dipped down the hill toward the river. That road has a way of telling you how bad the night's going to be. Sometimes it's quiet, just dark trees and the faint glint of water through the brush. Sometimes you see the sky lit up before you even hit the bottom. That night, the glow was waiting for us. At first it was just a dirty orange smear against the low clouds. Then we rounded the last bend by the tracks, and it punched into view. Thick black smoke rolling up from behind the embankment, lit from underneath by angry orange light. The top edge of the warehouse roof was flickering in and out of sight, flame licking up past the eaves. Boone let out a low breath. "Yeah," he murmured, mostly to himself. "That's not good." "Hydrant at Mill and Third," I reminded him. "Mind your spot. We're gonna need room." He grunted, eyes never leaving the road. We rattled over the railroad tracks, the whole rig bouncing. Riverfront Lane opened up in front of us, a mix of cracked pavement and patches of gravel. The warehouse loomed at the end of it, tall and tired, every broken window now a glowing eye. Flames were already chewing on the riverside, climbing the exterior wall. Smoke pushed from the eaves on our side, in thick, fast-moving layers. Boone set us up on the A side, office entrance toward the street, angled so he had the hydrant in range, and we still had a way out if things went bad. Engine 47 on scene. I reported. One-story commercial warehouse, heavy fire from the rear, and roof on the riverside, smoke from the eaves on the straight side. We'll be securing a water supply and making an interior push for primary search of the front. Confirm Station 42 ETA. Copy. Engine 47. Station 42 en route. 6-minute ETA. Chief 4 responding as well. 6 minutes. At a fire like that, 6 minutes is a lifetime. I stepped down onto the gravel. The heat hit like someone opened an oven door. The air smelled like old dust, hot wood, and something chemical underneath that I didn't like at all. "Line to the front office door," I called. "Inch and 3/4. Boone, I want water as soon as they hit the threshold." Marianne was already dragging hose, moving like she had a map of the place in her head. Tyler fed the line, glancing up at the building, eyes wide behind his mask. Off to the right, a porch light flicked on at the small house jammed up near the warehouse. Yellow vinyl siding, a metal awning, chain-link fence with a "Beware of Dog" sign that hadn't been accurate since the dog died. I knew that house. Old Walt Jennings stood in the doorway in a faded nightshirt, hair sticking in every direction, face lit by fire and porch bulb together. He was shouting, but with all the noise it took a second to realize he was shouting at me. I jogged over, keeping half my attention on the warehouse. "Walt, get back inside," I yelled. "Close your windows. Stay away from the side facing us." He grabbed my arm with surprising strength for a man his age. "Sam," he said, breathless. "There was somebody in there earlier, couple hours ago. I saw a flashlight moving around. Thought it was just kids. Nobody's come out since." "You saw them go in?" I asked. He nodded hard. "Front door, right where you're headed." "See him leave?" Another sharp shake of his head. I would have told somebody. Behind him, his living room windows were already reflecting orange. "You go inside," I said. "Stay low. Stay away from this wall. If that siding starts to melt, go out the back and holler. We'll get you out. But don't you come near this side again tonight, you hear me?" His hand squeezed my sleeve. "Don't let it jump to the house," he said, voice cracking. "We'll do what we can." Back at the engine, Marianne and Tyler had the line flaked to the office door. Boone was at the panel, lights reflected in his goggles, hands steady on the controls. "Tyler," I called, "you stay on Marianne's hip. You go where she goes, nowhere else. Marianne, you've got the nozzle. We're going to do a quick search of the office and the front third of the warehouse. We are not chasing this thing to the back. You see heavy fire overhead. You feel that floor go soft. You hear me say, 'Out.' You don't argue. You move. Understand?" Marianne nodded once. Tyler swallowed and nodded too. I slung the thermal imager over my shoulder, took one more look at the building. Smoke pushed hard and fast out of gaps in the siding, breathing in and out as the fire grew. The roof line along the riverside already had that ugly orange halo that means fires in the void spaces. The whole structure creaked occasionally, like an old man shifting in his sleep. "County, be advised," I said into my radio. "We have a report from a neighbor of possible occupants seen earlier inside. Unknown if still present. We're conducting a limited interior primary on the A side only. Copy. Engine 47. Limited. That was the word I held on to. Marianne forced the office door with a quick swing of her Halligan. A hot breath of tan smoke rolled out, curling under the porch light before slipping upward. It smelled like old paper, dust, and something burned sweet. We ducked low and went in. The office was a rectangle with desks on either side, filing cabinets jammed against the walls, old calendars curling on their nails. Paper was everywhere. Yellowed invoices, ledgers, safety posters nobody had read in 30 years. A busted vending machine slumped against one wall like it had given up. Paper and dust. A bad mix when there's this much heat. Marianne cracked the nozzle open in a short burst, cooling the ceiling ahead of us. Tyler kept the hose feeding smooth around chair legs and cabinets. My world shrank to the cone of my flashlight and the screen of the TIC. On the imager, the ceiling above the office glowed a hot, angry white. The walls and furniture were cooler gray smudges. No human-shaped heat signatures under the desks or in the corners. Just ghosts of office life long gone. "Left wall, then right," I called. "Quick sweep, watch your feet. Don't get tangled in junk." We cleared the office fast. No one hunched under a desk. No outstretched arms behind the filing cabinets. If anybody had been living in here, they'd cleaned up better than most of our regular drifters. At the far end, A wide opening led into the main warehouse. Heat poured through that doorway like air from a furnace. Even down low, you could feel it working its way through our gear. I lifted the TIC. The screen flared bright at the top where the rafters were, solid bands of white overhead, full involvement in the ceiling. Down low, near the floor, a churning mess of cooler grays and occasional hot spots where pallets or bags were burning. We were standing at the lip of a big, ugly fire. "All right," I said loud enough for both of them to hear. "We're going to push just into the front third, along that left row of racks. We do a fast primary in the aisles we can reach from here. We are not going deeper than that. If this roof starts talking louder, we're done." Marianne's voice came back through her mask. "Copy, Cap." She opened the nozzle again, sent a fan of water into the overhead, knocking some flame back from directly over our heads. Then she dropped the stream to sweep across some burning debris on the floor, just inside the threshold. We crawled through the opening and into the warehouse proper. The air hit like a wave. Even on our knees, it felt like sticking your face too close to a bonfire. Noise filled the space, roaring flames in the rafters, the hiss of steam, the crackle of old wood giving up. Glowing embers drifted down through the smoke, landing on our coats and hoods and going out. By the TIC's ghostly eye, I could see the outlines of tall metal racks stacked with old feed bags. Some had split, spilling grain that had hardened into strange drifts over the years. Dust motes glittered in the heat, a reminder of one more thing in here that might want to explode if we made it mad enough. "Short bursts," I called to Marianne. "Overhead first, then ahead of your feet. Keep it moving." She swept the stream back and forth at the ceiling, then ahead of us, making a thin, wet path on the floor. We followed the left-hand rack, hands on the hose, boots feeling for uneven spots in the planks. The smoke layered above us, brown and black, pushing down in waves. Every few feet, the heat pulsed higher and then ebbed, like the fire was breathing. Somewhere deeper in the building, something boomed, a deep, hollow thud that rolled through the space. Tyler flinched. "What was that?" he shouted. "Drums or tanks flashing off," I answered. "Old building like this, everything's full of surprises. Keep going." Even through the mask, I could tell he was trying to decide if he believed me. We reached a cross aisle and turned, checking the first open lane between racks. Marianne swept the nozzle along the floor and under the lower shelves, while I scanned with the TIC. Piles of junk glowed in odd patterns, hot where flame had already licked, cooler where the water had hit. No hands sticking out, no lumps in strange places. We backed out and moved to the next cross aisle. The heat kept building, pressing against our gear. My shoulders ached from crawling. Sweat ran down my spine, pooling in my boots. On the radio, 42's captain checked in. "Interior 47 from 42 Command. We've got fire through the roof on the C&D sides now. We're hitting the back with a line and watching your eaves from outside. How far in are you?" "Aside. Forward third," I replied. "Clearing accessible aisles. No victims so far. Conditions deteriorating. We're not going beyond mid-building." "Copy that. Keep an eye on your way out. We've got a good look at fire in the trusses." As if I could forget. We shifted to the next aisle. That's when I heard it, under all the other noise. Under the roar and the popping and the occasional boom, there was a softer sound, muffled, rhythmic. 3 thumps. Pause. 3 more. "Cap," Tyler said suddenly. "Do you hear knocking?" We froze. There it was again. 3 dull thuds, like somebody hitting metal with the heel of a hand. Mary Ann stopped moving, half turned her helmet toward me. "Could be drums," she said. "Could be beams shifting." "Could be somebody," Tyler shot back. "In training, we tell people, if you're trapped, make noise, bang on something. It's the kind of thing that comes back to you whether you want it to or not." I raised the TIC. I tried to find anything that looked like a person in the mess ahead. The screen showed slurry, hot and cold, all mixed. The floor dropped slightly toward the riverside there. Old loading dock design. Lower level under us. Partial basement. Nobody had good drawings of it. Nothing on the screen screamed human. At the same time, the knocking came again. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats. My jaw tightened inside the mask. We were already deeper than I liked in a building this old with this much fire overhead. The roof was talking. Long groans, sharp pops. The heat on the back of my neck had gone from hot to "this can't last long" a few minutes ago. I thought about Walt's porch light, the way his hand had clamped on my arm when he said, "Somebody was in there." I thought about Tyler's mom, who'd come by the station the day he got his badge, eyes shining, proud as could be. Courage and stupidity live on the same street. You don't always know which house you're at until later. 10 more feet, I said. We go 10 more feet down this aisle. If we don't see anything, no shape on the TIC, no actual person, we're done. We back out and go defensive. Understood? 10 feet. Mary Ann repeated. Tyler nodded, though I could tell his heart wanted 20. We crawled forward. The aisle was tighter here. Some pallets had fallen, spilling bags into the path. Tyler had to shove the nozzle past a broken board, hose scraping on metal. His leading foot came down on a plank that wasn't as solid as it looked. The world dropped. There was a crack, like a gunshot, and a deep splintering sound beneath us. The floor lurched. Tyler shouted as his right leg punched through into nothing up to his thigh. Mary Ann grabbed for him on instinct, one hand snatching the strap on his pack. The sudden extra weight jerked her sideways. The hose whipped, stream careening harmlessly into smoke. I felt the floor sag under all 3 of us, line and racks and everything tilting toward that hole. "Don't move," I yelled. "Freeze." Tyler's breaths were loud, fast in his mask. He tried to pull his leg up and only managed to rock the broken plank more. "Cap, I'm stuck." The pitch of his voice climbed toward panic. I shoved the tech down on its strap so it hung against my chest and lunged forward, grabbing the drag handle on the back of his SCBA. The building groaned again, deeper this time, the sound of old bones failing. My thumb found the radio button. "Mayday, mayday, mayday. Interior crew 47. We have a firefighter partially through the floor. AB corner, mid-building inside the warehouse. Possible collapse in progress. Attempting self-rescue. Need RIT to the front door and prepare for emergency evac." Voices crackled back at me. But the words might as well have been coming from another planet. My whole world had shrunk to the feel of that handle under my gloves. and the way the floor moved in little pulses under my knees. "Marianne, anchor yourself," I said. "Get your feet on solid planks. Grab his belt. When I count 3, we pull straight back together. Tyler, you don't fight us. You hear me? You tuck in and let us drag." He nodded, jerky. "I don't want to go down there," he blurted. "You're not going down there," I said. "Not today." I hoped I wasn't lying. Marianne shoved her boots against the base of the rack, found something that felt solid, and wrapped both arms tight around Tyler's waist. "Ready?" she grunted. I leaned back, felt the strain in my shoulders. 1, 2, 3. We pulled. For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Tyler didn't move. The webbing in my hands stretched. The hole under him creaked and widened. Something underneath gave way with a wet, tearing sound. His legs slid backward through splintered wood. Marianne fell onto her rear, still clinging. Tyler crashed into both of us, knocking the breath from my chest. The floor dropped another inch, just enough to feel. "Back out," I yelled. "Follow the line now. Go, go, go." We didn't need encouragement. We scrambled, half crawling, half sliding along the hose, away from the broken section. Behind us, in the collapse area, something big let go with a roar. Trusses, racks, who knows? Flame rushed up, finding new air. The heat on our backs jumped from miserable to unbearable. My radio crackled. "Interior 47, this is 42 Command. We've got full roof involvement mid-building and visible collapse from the outside. Do you need us to hit evac tones?" "Negative, Command." I managed between breaths. 3 firefighters self-evacuating, all accounted for. We're in the office, almost at the door. "Copy. Once you're out, we're defensive only. Nobody else is going in there." The rectangle of the office doorway appeared ahead, like the mouth of a tunnel. Smoke in the office seemed almost cool now. We crawled through it, over the burned paperwork and broken chair legs, and spilled out into the night. Hands grabbed gear and shoulders, pulling us away from the entrance. Cool, damp air hit my face as I ripped my mask off. Somebody was shouting for a PAR. Somebody else was already swinging a blitz line toward the open office doorway, preparing to keep the fire from blowing out that side. I staggered a few steps, turned back toward the building, a section of the roof over where we'd just been lit up, in a fresh blossom of flame. The whole middle of the warehouse seemed to sag and then fold in on itself. Flames shot up into the night, then dropped as the streams from outside found their mark. "Everybody from 47 accounted for?" Chief 4's voice came from somewhere by my left shoulder. "3 interior, 1 at the panel," I said. "We're all here." He gave me a quick look, checking more than just my words. "You sure you're all right?" "I'm on this side of the floor," I said. "That's good enough for now." He nodded once. "We're pulling everyone out," he said. 42's got a deck gun on the sea side. We're protecting the house and knocking this thing down from here." I glanced at Walt's place. One of 42's lines was playing a gentle curtain of water across the side of his house. The vinyl siding had started to ripple and brown in spots, but it was still solid. Walt stood inside his front window, a shadow behind glass, hands pressed together like he was praying, or maybe just wringing them. On the bumper of our engine, Tyler sat with his leg stretched out. The right bunker pant leg was torn and scorched where it had gone through the floor. His boot was still on, but there was already a swollen bulge above it. A medic knelt next to him, fingers probing just below his knee. "Sharp pain here?" she asked. "Yup," he hissed. "And here?" "Yup. Can you wiggle your toes?" He concentrated, face screwing up. "I think so," he muttered. "Maybe. They feel mad at me." I walked over the gravel crunching under my boots. He looked up, eyes a little wild, sweat streaking soot down his cheeks. "I'm sorry, Cap," he blurted. "I stepped where I shouldn't have. I thought the plank was solid, and then—" "Stop," I said, holding up a hand. "You did what we all do. The building failed, not you. You kept your head enough to let us pull. That's why you're sitting here instead of lying under there." His gaze flicked past me toward the burning warehouse. "I heard knocking," he said quietly. "Before that, like somebody hitting something. I kept thinking, what if there really was someone back there, and we didn't get to them because I fell through?" I followed his eyes. Flames poured from the windows now, rolling out and up before the master streams flattened them. Big sections of the roof were gone, just jagged teeth of truss silhouetted against a sky gone orange-gray. "You probably did hear knocking," I said. "Everything in there is expanding, shifting, falling. Drums pop, beams move in their pockets. It all makes noise. Fire lies with sound, too. It makes you hear what you're already afraid of." "So nobody was there," he said. "We don't know that yet," I answered. "We'll know more when it's cool enough to go poking around. What I know is this. We went as far as we reasonably could with what we had, in a building that had no good reason to still be standing. We found no one in the office, no one in the front aisles. The roof was coming down. I'd rather be sitting here wondering if we missed a ghost than standing there explaining why one of my people isn't going home." His shoulders sagged a little, some of the tension leaving his face. The medic finished wrapping a temporary splint around his lower leg. "You're taking a ride," she told him. "X-rays may be a fancy boot in your future. No hero stories about walking it off. You go with us like a good patient, okay?" He managed a crooked grin. "I'll try not to embarrass you in front of the ER nurses," he said. "You already did that," she replied. "You just don't remember." The fire burned for a while longer. We watched chunks of the roof cave in, sparks showering up each time. The master streams hammered down the main body, then crews from 42 and 47 swept the remnants from outside, knocking down stubborn pockets of flame. Hours later, when the bulk of it was cold enough, we went back in. Not like before. No crawling into aisles this time. We stayed near the safer sections, picking our way over twisted metal and charred planks, checking for hot spots, looking for any sign of what or who might have been in there. The hole where Tyler had gone through was a jagged wound in the floor, leading down into a dark, water-filled space. Old foundation, partial lower level. Who knew? Black water hid whatever lay under the surface. We weren't about to send anyone down into that soup. In the office, everything was mud and ash and half-burned paper. Out in the front third of the warehouse, we found melted plastic, warped tools, collapsed sections of rack. But we didn't find sleeping bags, fresh food wrappers, cigarette butts, or any of the other little signs that tell you somebody's been living in a place recently. And we didn't find bodies. The report would later read, "No occupants located. Building a total loss." Insurance would wrestle with the absentee owner over what it had been worth on paper. The town council would grumble about eyesores on Riverfront Lane and how someone ought to do something. Walt's house, miraculously, came through with only scorched siding on the riverside, and a story he'd happily tell anybody who'd listen for years. For me, the story lived in a different place. It was in the echo of that knocking sound in the smoke, in the feel of the webbing in my gloves as we hauled Tyler backward, in the sick roll of the floor when it dropped that last little bit under us. We sent Tyler home in a brace and on light duty for a while. He healed up, came back, put his gear on again, got mad at his leg every time it ached before a storm. Years later, he'd make lieutenant, then captain. He'd be the one giving the talk about vacant buildings and lying paperwork to some kid barely old enough to rent a car. The warehouse didn't get a second chance. It sat there, a blackened skeleton by the water, for longer than it should have. Then one day the town finally found the money and the will, and some contractor with a big yellow machine came and chewed it down to the foundations. They hauled away the twisted steel and burned wood. They scraped the lot flat. Somebody had stuck a sign in the dirt that said, "Future site of riverfront redevelopment," in cheerful letters. That sign's still there, last I checked. The future takes its time. A few months after I retired, I drove down Riverfront Lane on a soft evening, just because. The river was calm, catching the light in long silver streaks. The lot where the warehouse had stood was just gravel and weeds and that hopeful sign. I pulled over and shut off the truck. Crickets sang. Somewhere upstream a dog barked. The town behind me hummed the way small towns do at dusk. In my head, though, I heard the other sounds. The hollow booming of drums in heat. The roar of fire chewing on old beams. Tyler's voice, high and tight. "Cap, I'm stuck." I saw again the white patch on the teak where the floor had begun to fail, and the way my gloved hands had closed on his drag handle, like it was the only thing keeping the world from coming apart. You can count a fire in gallons of water used, in dollars lost, in man-hours billed. The city likes numbers like that. But the way we count them, the way we measure them in the dark later, is in inches and seconds. Inches between a boot finding solid plank or empty air. Seconds between pull now and too late. Courage and stupidity are neighbors. Most nights, you won't know which door you knocked on until years later, sitting in a quiet truck on a quiet road, looking at an empty lot where a liar of a building used to stand. I sat there a while, watching the river slide past the place that had almost taken a kid who trusted me. Then I started the engine and headed home, grateful that on that particular night, in that particular bad bet, the only thing we lost for good was an old warehouse that should have been gone long before we ever got called. People always think the worst fires are the big ones. For me, it's the nights when the ground shifts under your knees and you walk out anyway, carrying a new weight you'll never quite put down. The riverfront warehouse fire was one of those.